Hello friends, and welcome to the Forgotten Past. On this channel, you'll explore untold stories, lost events, ancient discoveries, and hidden secrets from across history. Let's view the video. The Battle of Gettysburg stands as the most significant and bloody clash of the American Civil War. Over 3 harrowing days, North and South collided in the fields of Pennsylvania, shaping the future of the nation. But this epic struggle didn't happen by chance. After the costly Confederate victory at Chancellorsville, General Robert E. Lee believed the time was ripe for a bold offensive. His Army of Northern Virginia had fought fiercely, and their morale soared. Lee set his sights on invading the North once again. Lee's plan was daring. By carrying the fight into Pennsylvania, he aimed to relieve war-torn Virginia, secure supplies, and possibly force the Union to negotiate peace. It was a calculated gamble, one that could change the course of the war. Meanwhile, the Union Army of the Potomac was in turmoil. After a string of command changes, General George G. Meade had just taken command days before the coming battle. He faced the enormous challenge of stopping Lee's advance. Pennsylvania held immense strategic value. Its rich farmland could supply armies, while its railways connected key cities. More importantly, a Confederate victory on Union soil would send shockwaves across the North and possibly sway foreign powers like Britain. By late June 1863, Lee's army crossed the Potomac River and moved swiftly through Maryland into Pennsylvania. His forces spread across the countryside, foraging for supplies and seeking an opportunity to strike. The road to Gettysburg was set. Union and Confederate troops, drawn by strategy and chance, converged on the small crossroads town. Neither side fully understood that within days, they would fight the bloodiest battle ever seen on American soil. At dawn on July 1, 1863, the small town of Gettysburg awoke to the distant rumble of approaching armies. Neither the townspeople nor the soldiers yet knew this quiet crossroads would soon be engulfed by one of history's most brutal battles. Confederate forces under General Henry Haight advanced towards Gettysburg from the west. Their objective was simple: seize supplies, particularly shoes, rumored to be stored in the town. Unbeknownst to them, Union cavalry under General John Buford had already arrived. Buford's cavalry held the high ground west of town, determined to delay the Confederate advance until Union infantry could reinforce them. His men dismounted and took defensive positions along McPherson's Ridge, prepared to make a desperate stand. The Union I Corps, under the respected General John Reynolds, rushed to the scene. His timely arrival was critical. As Confederate troops pressed forward, Reynolds personally directed Union reinforcements into position, rallying the defense. Tragically, Reynolds was struck by a Confederate bullet and killed almost immediately. His death dealt a harsh blow to Union morale, but his leadership in those early moments helped stabilize the Union defense west of town. As the fighting intensified, Confederate numbers swelled. By afternoon, they overwhelmed the Union lines. Despite fierce resistance, Union forces were forced to retreat through Gettysburg to stronger defensive ground south of town. The Union Army regrouped on Cemetery Hill as evening approached. Though driven back, they now held superior defensive positions. For both armies, the bloody struggle for Gettysburg had only begun, setting the stage for even greater carnage. As July 2 dawned, both Union and Confederate armies reinforced their positions around Gettysburg. The Union Army occupied high ground along Cemetery Hill, Cemetery Ridge, and the rocky prominence of Little Round Top. Lee saw an opportunity to strike and crush the Union line. General Lee devised a bold plan to attack both Union flanks. He ordered General James Longstreet to strike the Union left, while Ewell targeted the right at Culp's Hill. Lee hoped these coordinated assaults would break the Union defenses entirely. In the afternoon, Longstreet's divisions launched a fierce assault on the Union left. The first brutal fighting erupted at a rocky area known as Devil's Den. Soldiers clashed amid the boulders in vicious, close-quarters combat under blistering fire. Further along the Union line, Little Round Top became the scene of desperate fighting. Union Colonel Joshua Chamberlain's 20th Maine defended the hill's southern slope. If Confederates captured Little Round Top, the entire Union line could collapse. Chamberlain's men held against repeated attacks. With ammunition running low, they famously fixed bayonets and charged downhill, driving the Confederates back. Their heroic stand preserved the Union left and prevented disaster on the second day of battle. Elsewhere, savage fighting raged in the wheat field and peach orchard. Control of these areas changed hands repeatedly as both sides suffered staggering losses. The ground was littered with the dead and wounded by nightfall. Despite Confederate gains, the Union line held. As darkness fell over Gettysburg, both armies licked their wounds. The fields were soaked with blood, and the fate of the nation still hung in the balance. The morning of July 3 brought tension and uncertainty to both armies at Gettysburg. Lee, determined to secure victory, believed the Union center along Cemetery Ridge was vulnerable. Despite heavy losses, he prepared one final, daring assault to decide the fate of the battle. Lee ordered General George Pickett, along with divisions under Pettigrew and Trimble, to spearhead the attack. Nearly 12,000 Confederate soldiers would advance across open fields toward the entrenched Union positions. Many called it a desperate gamble, and they were right. Before the assault, Confederate artillery unleashed a massive bombardment aimed at softening the Union center. Over 150 cannons roared, shaking the ground. Smoke blanketed the battlefield, but when the barrage lifted, the Union line still stood strong. At around 3 p.m., Pickett's charge began. Confederate lines emerged from the woods, advancing steadily across nearly a mile of open ground. Union artillery and musket fire tore into their ranks as they marched with discipline and bravery. As the Confederates neared the Union position, their formations broke under relentless fire. Some reached the stone wall known as the Angle in fierce hand-to-hand combat, but they could not break through. Union defenders held firm. The Confederate assault collapsed. Over half of Pickett's men were killed, wounded, or captured. The fields were strewn with bodies. Lee, witnessing the slaughter, took responsibility for the failed attack, telling his men, "It is all my fault." With Pickett's charge repulsed, Lee had no choice but to retreat. His army's hopes of victory in the North were shattered. Gettysburg had become the high-water mark of the Confederacy, and its greatest defeat. As the sun rose on July 4, 1863, the fields of Gettysburg were eerily silent. The thunder of cannons had faded, replaced by the moans of the wounded and the sobering realization of the battle's terrible cost for both armies. General Robert E. Lee, accepting defeat, began preparations for retreat. His once proud army of Northern Virginia was battered and demoralized. On the night of July 4, under heavy rain, Confederate forces slipped away toward the Potomac River. The Union Army, though victorious, was in no condition to pursue aggressively. Over 23,000 Union soldiers were killed, wounded, or missing. The price of victory had been steep, leaving countless families shattered across the North. The Confederate losses were even more devastating. Lee's army suffered approximately 28,000 casualties, nearly one-third of his entire force. Many of his best officers and soldiers were gone, and his dreams of a successful Northern campaign were crushed. For the residents of Gettysburg, the aftermath was overwhelming. The small town of 2,400 people suddenly faced caring for over 50,000 wounded and burying thousands of dead. Homes, churches, and barns became makeshift hospitals for weeks to come. The landscape bore the scars of battle. Fields were littered with bodies, shattered trees, and abandoned weapons. The stench of death filled the air as burial parties worked tirelessly under the summer sun. News of the Union victory spread quickly across the nation. While celebrations erupted in the North, sorrow gripped the South. Gettysburg had proven a turning point, marking the Confederacy's first major defeat on Northern soil. In the aftermath of the battle, Gettysburg became hallowed ground. Thousands of soldiers lay buried beneath its soil, and the fields where they fought were forever etched into the nation's memory. The scars of war marked the land for generations to come. Efforts soon began to honor the fallen. Plans were made to establish a national cemetery for Union soldiers. The idea was not only to bury the dead but to create a lasting tribute to those who fought for the Union cause. On November 19, 1863, a dedication ceremony was held at the new Gettysburg National Cemetery. Dignitaries, soldiers, and civilians gathered to pay their respects. Among them was President Abraham Lincoln, whose words would soon echo through history. Lincoln's speech, known as the Gettysburg Address, lasted barely 2 minutes. Yet in those brief words, he redefined the purpose of the war. He spoke of liberty, equality, and a government of the people, by the people, for the people. The speech reminded Americans that the struggle at Gettysburg was part of a larger fight for national unity and human freedom. It transformed the battle from a military victory into a symbol of the enduring American spirit. Over the years, monuments and memorials appeared across the Gettysburg battlefield. Statues, plaques, and preserved sites ensured future generations would remember the sacrifices made there and the importance of preserving the Union. Today, Gettysburg remains a powerful symbol of courage, sacrifice, and the ongoing quest for freedom. The echoes of that fateful battle still shape America's identity, reminding the world that liberty often comes at a terrible price. Thanks for watching The Forgotten Past. If you enjoyed the journey, like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a hidden story or untold truth. New discoveries await. See you in the next video.